For all of us, the experience of shooting matters a lot, which is why I thought it's important to look at the few things that contribute to the experience of shooting. And that is how well those products are made in terms of design, how they feel in your hand, how the buttons are laid out, how functional the buttons are. Now, these things matter a lot and they directly impact your experience of shooting every day. And you may actually want to decide on what camera to buy based on just purely based on your experience of shooting. Because if you enjoy shooting with a camera, you will actually do better photography, which is in fact a reason why a lot of people love Leica or a lot of people love Fujifilm, because somewhere it is more than just the files and more than autofocus or the resolution or all of those things or features. It's about how the camera feels in your hand, how everything feels intuitive, which is why I thought let's look at Canon, Nikon, Sony, these three top brands, and also Fuji. We can talk about the Fuji X-T3 because the retro design of Fuji X-T3 is well represented by the X-T3, and most people who love Fuji love it because how the camera is really laid out, apart from the colors, of course. So let's begin with the Nikon. Now, before I start with the Nikon Z6 II, I must say that that I started photography with Nikon about in 2014-15 when I picked up my first camera. It was a Nikon APS-C. So I might have some biases, but since I'm conscious that I can be a bit biased towards Nikon, um, I think that consciousness itself will allow me to kind of cut down on that bias wherever possible. But you judge for yourself by the end of the video whether I was biased during this conversation or not. So let's begin with the Nikon. I must tell you, Nikon provides a very good base of how to design a camera well, right? For almost anyone, whether you're a big guy or a small guy, or you're a man or a woman, or a youngster, doesn't matter. I think the way Nikon figured out design is just amazing. And I see that recently Sony picked up on what's really good about Nikon's design, and they've been trying to improve on that. So let me begin with what really works. Two, three standout things about Nikon. The first thing is that the material and the build quality. The magnesium alloy body feels extremely well built. This is a Z6 II, right? Very well designed, very premium feeling. There's a rubberized, surface across the places wherever your hand is likely to touch, like the grip area, the back of the camera, this area, and even this part of the area, because you might just hold the camera like this. So they have been very careful about where to put those that feel good nice premium rubber material. So that's one, how what kind of quality material have been used to sort of make these camera bodies. Second is how well it is designed. Look, when most often when you shoot like this, right? So you have two fingers which are going inside this cavity, and Nikon typically place two or three custom buttons here. So I have the function button here, function 1 FN1 button, and the FN2 button here, right inside this. Now, so what happens is that when I'm shooting, I all my fingers, I have two fingers, they're not idle. They can control two critical functions. Whatever functions I assign to these buttons, they can control those functions. I can control that with just two fingers here. And then my finger here, the index finger, very conveniently falls on the shutter and on the front wheel, and also on the ISO button here, right? Let me show it to you. The ISO button and the record button, all of them are very well placed here. So this is very convenient. What you have to do is just press the ISO button and rotate the front dial. You will change it to auto ISO or manual ISO. That's all. It's easy. It's always there. I I have set the video record button in while I'm shooting stills. I've set the video record button to sort of move between different autofocus modes. So whether when I want to move between AFC, autofocus continuous, autofocus single, and manual focus, all I have to do is just click on this and move the front wheel. While I'm talking about manual focus, let me tell you, all Nikon cameras by default, the moment you move this uh, the focusing ring on any Nikon lens or even third party Nikon lenses, it'll start manually focusing, which is amazing. You don't have to change, you don't have to go to manual focus, change it in the on the lens and then do it. It's always ready. For me, the third most interesting thing that Nikon have been doing very well is uh, simplifying shooting video and shooting stills via this toggle here. Now, this switch here, which allows you to very quickly change from um, video to stills, is a wonderful thing. So, imagine you're shooting a video, right? Imagine you're shooting a video and you see a moment of which you want to take a still of. All you have to do is quickly move from video to still, right? Immediately the camera will cut the file there, stop recording, cut the file there and save the file without the file getting corrupt. That's amazing because you don't have to stop recording and then change the mode. You can just change the mode, it'll take care of the file inside. So amazing, very well done. Now, what I do sort of miss is maybe one or two more custom buttons on these bodies, the Z6 II, the Z7 II, the Z6, Z7, Z50. I feel they could have had a few more buttons that would have maybe at least one that would have really been nice. I can customize the joystick to some extent, but not all functions are allowed. Also, Nikon at times limits how it limits the list of functions you can assign to a button. What they should do is just they should not be restrictive of it. They should allow the entire functionality from all items in the menu should be ascribable to a button if that button can be customized. So I think that is something that Nikon can work on. So overall, this is solidly built, solidly designed camera, very intuitive, very ergonomic, right? Now, if you look at Sony, what Sony does is Sony goes, in my view, you may not like it if you're a Nikon fan. In my view, Sony uh, goes a step ahead actually, especially with the newer design that you will see on the A7 IV, and I'm sure that all the subsequent cameras will follow the A7 IV designs. So what's happening with the A7 IV is that you have actually now not two dials, you have four dials. Now the moment you increase the number of dials, you make it very easy to change things, to increase some setting, to decrease some setting. That's amazing, right? So you have two dials right here. Let me show you in this camera. You have two dials right here. I have set it to ISO. I have set this to shutter. I think by default it comes to shutter. The front wheel here is by default is the aperture dial. So this is standard. But the back wheel right here, this back wheel is amazing because what it does is it's not only is a wheel, but it's also a four-way button. So you essentially have four buttons here, right? So you can assign each direction, top, up, left and right, to different specific functions. And not only that, you have four dedicated function buttons. You have C1 to C4. The delete button is also a C4 button. You have the C1 button here, and you have the C2 button here, 3 button here. The C2 is here, right? So everything is very well customized. Now, what Sony have learned from Nikon is they have they have separated the movie and the stills menu. So they've added this little toggle here again, right? So all you do is you change it and you can shift between shooting stills and video. But not only that, they go a step further and they've also added the SNQ or slow motion settings. So you don't have to go inside movie settings and then change the frame rate. If you want to shoot something in slow mo, it's ready. You just have to change this, switch this toggle, and you're ready to go with slow motion. So that's amazing. Unlike Nikon, you cannot easily and very quickly intuitively move to manual focus just by rotating the uh, lens ring. Doesn't happen. I have assigned that function to the joystick. So the joystick can also be assigned to a particular function of your liking. So what happens on my camera is that when I press it, it goes into manual focus mode, and then I can quickly change this. So intuitive. So I think overall, um, Sony is using the real estate very, very well. Where I have a bit of complaint about Sony is that the material used to make these cameras, they feel cheap. They feel like a hybrid, somewhere between plastic and metal. I am not sure what this is made of. The rubber here is feels cheap, right? And the body feels light, which is an advantage, but somewhat it feels light in a negative way. It feels also hollow, so I don't like that. uh, I think the mount is not very well designed, because not only it's been my experience but a lot of other people's experience as well, that Sony sensors tend to gather a lot of dust, and that I think is because the mount is not perfectly designed like Nikon or Canon's, and it probably cannot protect some of the dust from entering inside. So I don't know, share your experiences, but I think that is the reason. So it's a bit of, it's all about engineering and how well the tooling has been done. So if you look at Sony, I think overall the shooting experience with Sony is amazingly intuitive, very easy. And honestly, I love shooting with A7 IV. I don't like the file output so much, but not. I mean, they're not bad, but the colors straight out of camera, what I get from my Fuji's and from my Nikon's, I think Sony is yet to get there. But the shooting experience is great. Okay. The screen quality could be better. Of course, it feels a bit flimsy. The Z6, the Z30, which is a like less than a $800 camera, that feels like it has a better, sturdier screen, rotating flip screen than this A7 IV. So yeah, a few things, room for improvement, but overall, I think Sony has done a fantastic job. Now let's move to Canon. So I've been using the Canon R5 for about a week now, and I have to say the first thing that strikes you when it comes to, which relates to experience of shooting, is the autofocus, especially eye autofocus. It's amazing. No matter the lighting condition, no matter the light condition, the eye autofocus is truly fantastic. I have to tell you, I've been using the 85mm 1.2, so in low light, it's not that low light for a 1.2 lens, but yeah, it's the autofocus is truly fascinating. I was using it with the Sony and with the Z9. I have to say, the R5 autofocus felt slightly better, especially the eye autofocus felt, in fact, better than the Sony A7 IV. Uh, so that was something. But apart from that, I did not like much about the Canon, I must say. I know there are a lot of traditional Canon users who think that Canon knows how to make a camera and they're perfect at the art of making cameras. I think the grip is great. I don't think the quality of the material is good. It actually feels cheap and flimsy. It's somewhere between Nikon and Sony. I think Fuji are now making better bodies, especially the X-T4, X-T3. These bodies, I'm yet to see the X-T5. I think those bodies are better made than even the Canon, right? So this R5. So yeah, so for example, Canon does a few things right. We've got three dials, but the third dial here, it's only a dial. It's not a button, unlike the Nikon and the Sony. Well, the Nikon doesn't have a dial, but you get a button there, right? But here you don't get a button, you just get a dial on the back of the camera. Now, the I have a problem with the front dial. I think a lot of Canon users are used to this. My finger wants to my finger wants to rest here, and this is where I would like my front dial to be, not here. This is not intuitive, right? So let's say I'm changing this, and then I do. Does Canon expect me to use my middle finger to shoot, and then lose support holding the camera? I don't think that makes sense. I like to secure my camera and hold it properly with 3 fingers like this. And then I'd like to maximize the use of my index finger. So I'd like to sort of have my rotating dial here and then the button here. The button placement is fine. Now, the good thing about R5 is that they are offering a screen on top, which offers you valuable information. It just helps you shoot quickly. The Nikon Z6 II, Z7 II, Z7, Z6, all of those cameras have it. The Sony's A7 IV, it doesn't have the top screen. And I think that is a bit of a miss on Sony's part. I think the top screen should become mandatory. Even the new Fuji's, the XH2 and the XH2S, they have added the top screens as well, and they work very nice. They work very well. I think it's very convenient to have the top screen. My problem with Canon on the R5 is this mode button here. This dependence on this mode button is something I don't like. I'm okay if it is only about changing between manual mode and AV and TV, which is shutter priority and aperture priority. But in this case, there is no easy toggle button between photo and video. So I have to press this and then touch the screen here to change between photo and video. That is not something that I prefer to have. I'd not like it to be designed like this. There's a Q button here on the Canon on the back, much like Fuji's Q button. But overall, I didn't like using the Canon in terms of the layout. I didn't like it so much, honestly. How strange is it to put the switch on and off button on the left side? It's so counterintuitive, right? Again, it makes no sense. So overall, I did not like handling the Canon that much. Yes, the grip is great. The quality of material is not as great. And given how large Canon as a camera company is, I think they could easily, offer better quality of material on the Canon R5. And it's been about 2 years now, and I've heard a lot of instances where people have seen the dust or moisture go inside the R5 and R6 and ruin the camera. So I think materials, build quality matters, and Canon could do better, definitely. Now let's come to the big daddy, the Z9, right? The Z9. Let me bring the Z9. Now, look, this is a different grade of camera. This is a different class of camera. So we should look at it differently. This competes with only one more camera out there, which is the Canon 1DX and the R3. In fact, it's there. I loved using the Z9 despite being so heavy and large. Okay, it's not easy to pack inside a bag, and it's not easy to sort of, if you're a travel photographer, it's not easy to carry it throughout the day. If you start in the morning 10 a.m., let's say, or even earlier than that, let's say 7:30 is when you start, and you will travel the whole day and finish the day at 7:30 in the evening. I don't think this is a 12-hour camera. I don't think this is even a 3-hour camera. This is a half an hour, 1 hour camera. And if you want to use it for longer, you should have a monopod or a tripod. But those are difficult things to travel with, right? So, but having said that, the comfort level increases a lot. Because how well the camera is designed, I can really hold it tightly nicely. Okay, now let me show you something. Look, see how well contoured this grip is. Let me show you this how well contoured this grip is. What it allows me to do is it allows me to snugly fit my fingers there, right? And it just almost locks. My finger gets locked there because of the curve here. My finger gets locked like this, and that is amazing. And I see almost the same thing when I'm holding the camera vertically. It's not as deep as this curvature here, but it comes close. Very well done. And this depth here, like this, it's deeper here than it is here, right? This also allows me to really wrap my, palm around this and hold it properly. So this is an amazing experience to hold the camera and use the camera like this. Material, build quality, oh my god, this is amazing. This is proper premium stuff. Okay, the buttons, for example, the not the buttons, the The dials, for example, are rubberized. Um, they don't feel plasticky. The rich, high quality rubber. You have 4 function buttons. What Z9 has done is that they've increased one more, they've added one more function button here, right? So now you have 3 function buttons. So you can use all 3 of your fingers to do something. All 4 of your front fingers are doing something, right? This is an active finger because you have the dial here, you have the shutter button here, you have the ISO button here, record button here, and exposure adjustment meter button here. And the rest of the 3 fingers, I can use this finger to use the FN1 button, and then the FN2, and then FN3 button. So this is amazing, very well designed. And then the thumb, you have so many buttons to use the thumb for, right? So all the 5 fingers are working. uh, this is true, proper, real ergonomic design. This is fantastic, very well done by Nikon. Here you have this multifunction thing here. I press it, I can change modes, right? I can change shutter priority to manual to aperture priority. I have the bracketing button here. I press it, I hold it like this, I press it. I have the bracketing options open up in front of me here on the screen. I can change between the different bracketing options. I can control my flash. The flash can be controlled from here, this button here. So all the important things that you think that would be buried deep inside the menu while shooting, most of the important things are here, right? And you want to increase your burst speed or reduce your burst speed shooting. Do you want to shoot at 20 fps or 10 fps? You control it directly from here. Amazing. Then what about white balance, and what about quality of this? And do you want to shoot in JPEG only or raw? Do you want to shoot small size or medium size or large size files? Okay, you don't have to worry because there are 2 buttons here, right here. There is the white balance button placed right here, and there is the quality button placed right here, from which you change and decide on the file quality. So all in all, the Z9 is in another league, and I don't think should be compared with the rest of the cameras. But the Z9 has something, Nikon, the Sony and the Z9 can be compared because Sony's don't have a unibody design body. The A1 is almost like the A7 IV. So if we compare the A7 IV with the Sony's, rather, if we compare the Z9 to the Sony's, I have to say Z9 comfortably edges past the Sony bodies. But if you ignore the Z9 for a moment, I think Sony, of all the brands, I think Sony does the best, followed by, depending on how you like it, either Fuji, because the retro style bodies have, I'll put a picture here, the retro style bodies allow you to not sort of, you don't have to go inside the menus to find functionalities. It's all up out there. It's very tactile, it's very user friendly and control friendly, right? The Fujis are up there. I think for me, Nikon, the normal Nikon full frame bodies are great. I think after Sony I would place Nikon, and Fuji very close third, and I'd place Canon after that in 4th place, honestly speaking. So that's where it is. So if you're someone who's thinking of using a very user-friendly camera, I think Sony has done a very good job recently. They're also making light, small bodies. They're not as sturdy as the Nikon bodies are, but I think they've done overall a very good job. But if you look at an all-rounder body, right, which is built well, looks great, very well weather sealed, beautifully easy to hold, easy to sort of, and very high quality stuff, very well designed premium product, and gives you a feel of using a very high quality product, then look no further than the Nikons. Even if you buy their Z30, which is the cheapest body available on the Nikon Z mount, I mean, the quality and the feel of the materials is way ahead of some of the best Sonys. And I think that's where Nikon makes a difference. It just feels like they feel like a very well designed, balanced cameras, and it doesn't look like they're cheaping out anywhere. So that's where I would leave the conversation on what the different experiences are with these different brands. I have a lot to talk about on the R5 and the 85mm 1.2 versus the Z9 and the 105 1.4, which I recently used for about 7 days, and it was a great experience for both of them. So look forward to that. Recently, Z9 released the firmware 3, and you can watch my video here or here on that firmware. I think Nikon have done a amazing, and Nikon is now competing with their one more firmware like this, and Nikon will become a cinema camera, except the internal ND filter. So I think amazing job done. Watch that video here and get informed on what Nikon is doing really well for the entire camera industry, not just for itself. So the Z9 firmware update, I think it was not for only this camera, it was for the entirety of Nikon as a company. So that's where I would leave it right now. I have conversations on different camera brands, mostly on Nikon, Fuji and Sony. And if you like this sort of content, do share your opinions in the comment section. Give this video a like and subscribe. I'm going to see you very soon with another one.